So far, the Washington Huskies appear to be on a mission in the Pac-12. They are having a good start to their season, averaging nearly 50 points a game. This is an offense that is extremely explosive, and they've run into a Michigan State defense that will give them their first true test of the season. They took care of business against Boise State and Tulsa, but now they face their first Power Five opponent, and that will be an interesting test for them for sure. That will be an interesting group to face. This is a Michigan State defense that has a lot of talented players, a lot of experienced players, and that will make life very interesting for both sides. The first thing we'll look at is Washington's passing attack is the most talked about passing attack in college football right now. The trio of wide receivers in Romeo Dunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Polk make Michael Penix's job a lot easier than a lot of quarterbacks face. However, they're facing a Michigan State pass defense that averages just 107 yards against them per game. These are two teams that are good in certain aspects, and then there's certain other aspects that they will need to improve upon to ensure that they win this game. And really, it's going to come down to pace of play. If Washington is picking apart Michigan State's defense, if they're playing with tempo, if they're moving down the field efficiently, and they're using their no huddle, Michigan State's in for a long night. Now, Michigan State's not exactly the Michigan State of old. They're maybe a little bit more adept to the current level of college football to be able to score points. They just don't have what it takes to play a shootout type of game. Now, they can put up points if their defense is playing well, but I don't think they're equipped to hang with a Washington team that can score 50 points in a hurry. Just ask Boise State how that works. It's not fun. It's not fun to be able to keep up with them. And Michigan State's going to be efficient. They need to be efficient, I should say, to win this game, and they need to be efficient to keep this game close. Whether or not they do that is probably the biggest question. But I think when you're looking at it, this defense has a chance to slow down this Washington passing attack if the passing defense does what it needs to do. And then it goes back to the offense to find a way to be efficient. Noah Kim is in the spotlight, and for good reason. You look at he's a new quarterback with Peyton Thorne gone. It's everyone expected. It's a little bit uncertainty to start the year. So far, he's been pretty solid. I don't want to say that he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but he is definitely someone that has surprised us so far. And Michigan State has their biggest test of the year. It's not going to be easy to beat a Washington team that can score in a hurry, but Noah Kim doesn't have to be Michael Penix. He has to be Noah Kim. Finding ways to be efficient, moving the ball down the field, finding his receivers downfield, and making sure that he's not straining to make plays. You have a group of talented playmakers. I think you look at Glover and Fitzpatrick as two explosive weapons. You also have Trey Mosley as the reliable one. This is a group that's been explosive. They're not going to be as explosive as Washington, but they can make a big play here and there. And that could be a big difference between them keeping up with Washington and them essentially getting blown out of the water. So the other thing to keep in mind is how much does the Mel Tucker news affect Michigan State, whether that's good or bad. And we're not going to dive into it. We already looked at maybe some potential replacements for Mel Tucker, but we are going to focus primarily on what happens to a team when something like this happens, when your coach is affected, whether it's suspended, fired. How does your team play? Is this going to be a motivated Michigan State team? Is this going to be a distracted Michigan State team? That's probably the biggest question I have for the Spartans this week is, are they locked in and playing for their coach or playing for each other? Or are they just sick of hearing everything and now they're focused on other things that isn't including the Washington Huskies? Because that gets dangerous. That's where things get, I think, out of hand. And from there, it's just a matter of how much does Washington win by? Because, like I said, this offense is nuts. Michael Penix Jr. leads the way. Obviously, he is almost at 900 yards already, 8 touchdowns to 1 pick. And like I said, the trio of wide receivers have done their job. I think that you're kind of looking at similar production from last year where Polk is the third option. He's explosive right now. He's averaging almost 23 yards per catch. And then McMillan and Odunze are the leading two guys that you have to worry about. So you can't necessarily send too many resources over to one player because that allows the other two to expose your defense. So Michigan State has to find a game plan that works. Michigan State has to find a way to slow them down, to be able to create turnovers. Michael Penix Jr. can be fooled. He can be baited into throwing some bad throws. Michigan State's scheme will play a big role in determining how close this game will be, and it's going to be fun. I'm really excited to see this Washington offense go against that Michigan State defense. And again, this is another example of just because games don't seem like they'll be interesting doesn't mean that there are extremely interesting aspects of each game to watch. And it doesn't take much to get excited about it. When you're looking at talented players, Washington's passing attack obviously features a number of players that people will watch. The Michigan State defense is a relatively unknown group outside of a couple guys because they just haven't been well-known names, but they can play at a high level. They can find a way to be explosive. And I think a big player to watch is Cal Haladay, one of the better linebackers in college football. He is a natural playmaker. And if you haven't watched him, I recommend it. I recommend watching Michigan State's defense. I think that they can be a really fun group to watch, a group that will swarm to the football. And from there, it's just a matter of what do they do to be disruptive, create turnovers, and slow down a Washington offense that so far is flying high and hasn't met much resistance. It won't be easy. You're going to throw haymakers all night, and you're going to be in trouble if you can't land some of those. Michigan State has the talent to be competitive. They have the ability to hang with Washington for a certain point. It's just a matter of how long are they able to do that? And if they do it long enough, are they able to seal the deal and pull off the upset? This offense for Washington is absolutely loaded. The defense for Michigan State is talented. And then on the flip side, you have two groups in one, the Michigan State offense and the Washington defense that are underrated, don't get as much love as the other units, but they're two units that probably will play a big role in determining how successful one team is versus the other. And if it's just a shootout, I don't think that can happen just because Michigan State doesn't appear equipped for that. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I really like what this matchup could provide. I think that this could be a game that's closer than a lot of people expect. Right now, I think you have to lean Washington, even though going on the road and you're going into a tough place to play. You're playing against a tough team. I think that Washington will be just fine. I think they'll be able to handle things and they'll be able to keep moving this offense like they have been the last couple weeks. They probably hit a few more hiccups than they've seen in the past, but I think the Huskies get the job done. Michigan State will give them everything they can. It's just that Washington will probably be too much.